What's up, Wall fans, common sensors, and of course podcast consumers? Welcome to the video feed for another very exciting edition of Common Sense Sundays with Go Tell It to the Wall, hosted by me, your absolute favorite podcast host, the one and only Sean O'Rourke, and this is episode 102. We got a lot of exciting stuff this week, so with that being said, let's just get right into what is episode 102.
One, two, three, go tell it to the wall. Tell it to the wall. Go tell it to the wall. Tell it to the wall.
All right, Wall fans, common sensors, podcast consumers, welcome to another very exciting edition of Common Sense Sundays with Go Tell It to the Wall, hosted by me, your absolute favorite podcast host, the one and only Sean O'Rourke, and this is episode 102. And do not adjust your calendars, it is actually Monday. Took the time for some other stuff this weekend, decided to go ahead and shift to Monday, but we were due for a Common Sense Sunday episode, so we're still doing it despite the fact that it is Monday. I'd also like to finish up here quickly enough to be able to watch the national championship. We'll get into a little bit of that because there is multiple hometown feels in my household when it comes to today's men's basketball, college basketball championship game. But before we get to all that, we always kick things off with our social plugs. You can keep up with us before episodes, after episodes, during episodes, whenever you so please, and you can do that in multiple locations. One of those would be facebook.com/go-tell-it-to-the-wall. That's right, facebook.com/go-tell-it-to-the-wall. That's our official Facebook page. All new content gets posted through there, even if it doesn't live on there. You know, it's a lot of links and stuff like that. And the video content is uploaded directly there. So make sure, if you are a Facebook user, that you follow our page on Facebook. And then, of course, our YouTube channel, youtube.com/go-tell-it-to-the-wall. That's right, youtube.com/go-tell-it-to-the-wall. That is going to be your one-stop shop for all of our video content at all. Most of it runs through there. So make sure, if you enjoy using YouTube, that you are subscribed to our channel and you get all of the updates on new video content that is posted through our YouTube channel. And then, of course, is my own personal Instagram account, which, like I always say, is not all based on Go Tell It to the Wall, Common Sense Sundays, and all that good stuff. However, you are going to get a lot of great photo content through there, and that is at SoCalSean, SoCalSean, at SoCalSean. Just had a brand new set of photos that got posted up there yesterday, so make sure you go and check that out. Actually, some photos from 2:30 playing South Bay Customs back in January. So again, at SoCalSean right there on Instagram. And don't forget, our official website for anything and everything that is Go Tell It to the Wall, Common Sense Sundays, and of course me, Sean O'Rourke, would be SeanO'RourkeLive.com. So make sure you bookmark that. You're going to find links to those social platforms that I just mentioned. You're also going to find some other exclusive content that does not get posted to other social platforms. You're also going to find a link to our Patreon campaign. If you want to support us financially, that is a great way to do so. Even if you don't want to support us, but you want to support other broadcasters, musicians, artists, all that good stuff out there, then make sure you check out Patreon. And if you don't want to support us through Patreon, but you do want to support us financially, you can pick up some merch. There's a link right there on SeanO'RourkeLive.com that'll take you directly to our merch website. Pick up some Common Sense t-shirts, mugs. I think there's even a wine glass up there. All kinds of good stuff on the merch website. So check that out if you have the means to do so and you want to help us out, especially financially. It's free to share things, but it's also good to be able to bring new things into the studio. So either Patreon or merch website is a good way to do that. We are back after a 2-week break. That's right. Everything was fine. We essentially had scheduling conflicts. And I'll tell everyone, because, as you know, I updated everyone with the situation that my father was going through back in December and into January. So actually had not been able to see my parents until a couple weeks ago. They came to visit, so I decided to take that time and spend it with them. And then the following weekend was my wife's birthday. So again, prioritized that, had a little birthday party for her on Sunday, and obviously not enough time to record. There's also a bunch of shows that were thrown in there. In fact, going to recap a couple of shows and not even get to all the ones that have happened recently. So we're going to kind of be backlogged on show recaps. Not to mention the huge release this week, an album review, and we'll get to that in entertainment news, an album review that is literally years in the making. So all that being said, we are back. We are back on schedule. Sometimes we have these scheduling conflicts. Sometimes we record a Common Sense Sunday on a Monday. This is a great example of that. nonetheless, you're still going to get all that great content that you're used to from Go Tell It to the Wall, and of course me, the one and only Sean O'Rourke. All right, let's get into some digital trends. Oh boy. There is a particular digital platform that is going nuts, has been, and just seems to be getting worse and worse. That would, of course, be Twitter. So if you're still on the Twitter, which I am, but I don't contribute anything to it, I simply use it to watch the train wrecks and to pick up some pop culture news and all that kind of good stuff. But if you've been on there lately, you can see the madness that's been going on, and users are just continuing to complain about Twitter, which I kind of joked about from the beginning, and it's like, I get it. There's also other options out there. Create your own website. I'm not going to saying you're going to create Twitter, but there's literally ways to put out your own content without using Twitter. However, I do relate, at least to an extent, people that have friends on Twitter, everything else. I get it to an extent, but people are just complaining. In fact, we had Mark Cuban, for those of you not familiar, he is the owner of the Dallas Mavericks in the NBA, literally a billionaire. He tweeted out at Elon Musk, good old Elon, basically complaining that he was losing followers like daily and asking what he could do about this. I saw this pop up in, I don't know, whatever timeline I had, and I was like, I think someone retweeted it. It might have been the Eve 6 account. So what's blanking on his the lead singer that runs it, Max Collins. I believe he brought it to my attention because that is somebody I actually follow, and they're like getting a lot of content now of people I don't even follow. Nonetheless, my first thought was, this guy is a freaking billionaire, and he's taking time out of his day because he's super concerned about a dying social platform. It is dying. It's just dying a very slow death at this point, but it's going to be completely gone. Elon Musk is running that thing into the ground, but there's got to be better things that he can do with his time. We also had news over the past couple weeks that Elon Musk was going to take away everyone's what they have now been called legacy blue check marks, which used to let you know that it was somebody of note. So if you were following Twitter and somebody changed their Twitter handle to, President Biden or something, you'd know, that's not President Biden. There's no blue check mark there. And then, of course, the whole paid thing, which we all know has been going on. So Elon said that he was going to take away all of the legacy blue check marks on April 1st. Well, today is April 3rd. That has not happened yet. I think a few people have lost their legacy blue check marks, but it didn't actually happen. I think this was him attempting to get people to care about their check marks. Here's the thing. Most people of note that had this check mark are also not people that would have paid for the thing to begin with. So it's really a false threat as far as I can see. But what that is contributing to is because you can simply pay for a blue check mark, people are messing around with it, and you're getting obvious impersonations of other accounts. And I got to be honest, I think some people think this is funny. I find it quite annoying. And obviously you can't take anything seriously on Twitter at this point because of that. And in fact, it's gotten so bad at this point because for those of you that don't use Twitter, what you could do if you saw a blue check mark and you're like, oh, wait, is this somebody of note? You could click on the blue check mark and it would tell you if it was a legacy, in finger quotes, blue check mark, somebody that is of note or could have been of note, or if they are subscribed to Twitter Blue. Well, on April 1st, those two things combined. So now if you click on it, it's going to tell you this person is either a legacy check mark or they are subscribed to Twitter Blue. So you don't know if it's somebody that's just paying for a check mark or if it's actually somebody of note who earned, put that in finger quotes too, a blue check mark like years ago or anything like that. So you literally can't tell which they are, which is just going to add to people faking other accounts, putting out funky news. It's really just all over the place, and it's dying a somewhat slow death, but it's just a matter of time until he completely runs that thing into the ground. Like I said, I've never been a big Twitter user. I rarely contribute any content on it. We do have a Go Tell It to the Wall Twitter account that still exists. We stopped posting new episodes to that thing like years ago. It's like, no more Twitter. It's there. We don't use it. It gets a follow now and then, but we don't actually contribute anything. And as I've always said, I use my personal one just to look things up, to get the pulse of of what's going on in the world, which it is useful for sometimes, also not so useful at other times. So take from that what you will. I'm just watching the slow car crash, the car crash in slow motion, I guess, that is Twitter right now. To me, it's pretty comical. But I do find the whole faking accounts annoying, and then you got to look at their actual and it's like, oh, okay, you're not this person. It's really getting kind of ridiculous at this point. And if you enjoy that, that's fine. It's not for me. Not for me at all. All right, we just talk about these challenges. And a lot of them these days come from TikTok. Used to be YouTube challenges and Twitter challenges and all kinds of stuff. And we always talk about how there's some good ones, like the whole ice bucket challenge. Harmless, fine, and there was like the planking, harmless, that's fine, do the stuff. And then there's ones that can be either detrimental to your own health or to other people's health. And we've had a couple of those pop up recently, one specifically from social platforms, and then the other one is just kind of a classic that I don't even know how that's, but we'll get to that one in a sec. The first one is some kind of challenge where people are putting a bin or a bag on somebody's head and then watching them react to not knowing why they suddenly can't see anymore. Well, we got a story out of Tustin here in Southern California, which is actually, it's part of Orange County, Tustin area, for those of you not familiar. It's in Orange County. A woman was at a Target there, and a couple of younger boys decided to put a bucket on her head. And here's the kicker. She had no idea what was going on, ended up tripping, and on top of it, she actually suffers from epilepsy. For those of you not familiar with epilepsy, it's a condition that can cause seizures at times. So essentially, it caused problems with her epilepsy. She ended up very injured and in the hospital, all while there's a group of young boys. I'm going to call them boys. They're not even young men. These are boys doing stupid shit. They probably follow Andrew Tate and Jordan Peterson, these asshats that are running all around willy-nilly on social platforms, because they think it's funny. Not funny to put somebody in the hospital. It's actually quite scary. I've always said, like I just said, challenges are fine, but not when somebody can get hurt out of it. And this is apparently a challenge that's been going on. Hopefully they're going to find these kids and they are going to get their comeuppance, for lack of a better word. And I'm sure this video was, they probably like idiots, probably posted this video to social platforms. Again, probably TikTok. TikTok's not nearly as toxic as Twitter, but it's going to catch up at some point. Just wait for that. And then another thing making a weird comeback, and this one's really just funny. Not funny what happened, but it's funny because we all remember Ding Dong Ditch. It's a thing you did as a kid. This does seem like it can be a harmless thing. Well, that's making a bit of a comeback, and specifically in a town in East Boston, they've had a run of young kids doing this at houses. Well, and the reason it became prominent in the news lately is there is an elderly woman who was dealing with some health problems. I can't remember the health problems off the top of my head, but had like a heart problem and I believe like a hip surgery or something like that. This is happening all around this town. And then what happened was somebody came to this woman's house, and it was happening not just to her house, but to multiple houses in the area. Some kids came to her house, rang the doorbell. She decided she wanted to try and catch them because it's been a problem in that area. Ended up tripping over a table and had to go to the hospital because some kids thought it would be funny to ding-dong ditch this poor woman who's just trying to recover in her house. This does seem like a harmless one. But when we see situations like this, we need to step back and say, you know what? Probably not a good idea. I will say, I didn't know that this would still be a thing, because this has happened to me multiple times. But these days we have these video doorbells. In fact, not long after we moved into the house that we're in, I have a doorbell like on our outer gate. We have a doorbell, just regular doorbell in the house, but on our outer gate, so that if people are outside on the outside of the gate, they can ring the doorbell and we can answer from our phones. Well, kids, I guess, didn't realize that it's actually a video doorbell, and it's happened a couple times where I will see it, and I can literally look out my front window and see if anyone's standing there, but if you pull it up, you can see the kid hitting the damn doorbell. You're not being clever, kids, at all. I've got you on video there. And I never didn't go looking for the kids or anything, but it's just, to me, it's funny. I thought we were kind of done with the ding-dong ditch stuff. And going back to kind of the very beginning of Go Tell It to the Wall, we talked about this, how these challenges can become dangerous for other people, especially the pranks and stuff, but it can become dangerous for kids. And if you remember a story, this is from 2016, where I am out in Los Angeles, and this is, an occurrence you see now and then. There was a houseless gentleman who was kind of walking down the street talking to himself, and you could tell, not everything completely right for him. And following close behind him were 3 young boys with their phones out trying to video him, obviously because they want to post it to social medias and share it with their friends and everything else. Now, chances are that guy wasn't going to hurt those kids, but even a 1% chance, you don't want your kids to be in danger chasing down somebody who's clearly not completely right in the head. You don't know what's going to happen. But this is the kind of culture we've created. I've talked about this since the very beginning of Go Tell It to the Wall, well before Common Sense Sundays, and we still have it happening. And video doorbells, kids, can see a face right there. It records it. The thing records motion, so even if you think you're being fast, you're not. It's got you coming up, pressing the thing, and then running away. Let's stop the ding-dong ditch stuff. All right, and of course, more Disneyland stupidity. This one, not a specific Disneyland influencer, but a moment that went viral. I still don't understand this person. I always want to say kid, but it's this Hezbollah, I believe is a Russian influencer of some kind, who he clearly has a condition which makes him look like a young child, you know. And obviously, I think when he talks and does things, you know that he's like a 20-year-old or whatever it is. But he was at Disneyland recently and decided to ride the Autopia ride and start running into other cars. And this is being recorded by the person sitting in the car with him. And it's, you know, these things happen. I've been on Autopia, a car hits another car lightly, but there's an accident, and then there's continuing to do it on purpose and laughing about it. And that's what this Hezbollah did. It was clearly on purpose, and then video evidence of it going on. Disneyland is for kids. Adults, you're welcome to enjoy it. Disneyland is for kids. Do not ruin it. Do not run into other cars where kids are driving on Autopia. There's just nothing cool about that. However, we have another situation where that was going on. He should know better, needs to know better. The person recording him needs to know better. Let's all just do better. There's no reason to do this. And he's laughing his ass off. You could be ruining a day for some kid whose parent just had to spend $5,000 to go to Disneyland. It's not all about you. So calm down, Hezbollah, whatever his name is. I don't understand why he's famous. I believe he became famous as doing influencer, finger quote, influencer things, you know, probably on TikTok or whatever else. And of course, every year I have to discuss this. This past Saturday was April 1st. I fucking hate April 1st. I hate April Fool's Day. It's the dumbest thing ever. If you want to do some silly prank that's going to have no effect physically, that's fine. I hate it. You go on there, you can't believe a goddamn thing on social media, anywhere on the internet, because everybody thinks they're clever by putting out fake stories, all this kind of stuff, and some of them are very obvious, and some of them aren't as obvious. Let's knock it off with the April Fool stuff, because it's still madness on the internet. Though I will say, it seems to become less and less every year. I think people are realizing how dumb it is. So hopefully, as the years move on, we'll eventually see none of this madness on April Fool's Day. Grow up. Pranks are just, I'm not a fan of pranks, period. You know, like a silly little thing, but throwing water on, like all this stuff, it's ridiculous. Making huge messes. I don't like my house being trashed, so don't come in here and start firing off confetti cannons and all that kind of bullshit. Grow up. All right, on a positive note, Friday was hashtag Trans Day of Visibility. Again, hashtag Trans Day of Visibility. I enjoyed this one. A lot of trans people as well as trans advocates were sharing encouraging photos, talking about their journey, bringing awareness to trans people around the world. What I will also end with is, yes, Trans Day of Visibility is a fantastic thing. We should have it, but we should also make sure we are defending our trans friends and family the other 364 days of the year as well. So again, if you're curious to, even if you want to educate yourself a little bit, I happen to be friends with a few trans people, and some of it was very interesting. It's like, wow, I never realized you had to deal with that. So that's something you could definitely go back and look up if you're interested in doing that. All right, let's move on to some mental health. All right, a few weeks ago we talked about John Fetterman, senator from Pennsylvania, who was honest and open about his struggles with depression and actually checked himself into a treatment facility. So I want to follow up on that. He has actually gotten out of the treatment facility and has returned. I believe he was working from the treatment facility, doing everything he could as a senator. Don't get it twisted. Senators aren't always sitting there in the Capitol. I mean, they go to their respective states. They travel, all these kinds of things. So he's still working, but he has returned to the Capitol. And not only that, good on him for being open and honest about it to begin with. Very happy to see him back, that he was able to get that treatment. One thing I will say is, thankfully, he has a very nice health insurance program that all of these politicians get that not many of us out there get. So I'm sure he was getting the top quality care. But on the positive side, he was open about it. And when he came back, he said, treatment for depression can work for people. So he's continuing that conversation, despite the fact that he has, and these struggles, I'm sure, are not going to go away. He's still having some kind of struggles, but he's doing much better than he was. And this is something that we always talk about. We need more notable people to be honest. And we've come strides over the past 20, 30 years where people are becoming a lot more honest about it, but we need to continue to build off of that. Seeing somebody like John Fetterman and hearing these stories for a young person can be life-changing. They can know they're not alone in their mental illness, their depression, their anxiety, whatever it might be. And we need more people to talk openly about it. That doesn't mean make yourself uncomfortable, but that's always been a mission here at Go Tell It to the Wall, is if one person hears something and realizes they're not alone, then it's well worth talking about mental health and mental illness on this podcast. And especially as much as it's tough for me at times, I talk about my own struggles quite often. But I do want to take a moment. We're not getting too in depth this week when it comes to mental health, but I've started watching this show called Shrinkage, which I always kind of laugh because the Seinfeld episode. And I always remember the Seinfeld episode because I have a Descendants patch on my jacket, which is Milo in a bit of a George Costanza style, and it just says shrinkage, and he's like in the water, and so that's why I always kind of chuckle. But it's obviously not that. It's talking about therapists and shrinkage and being a shrinkage, and being a shrink. So it's Shrinkage. For those of you not familiar, this is one that it's Jason Segel and Harrison Ford. They do a very good job on their acting, but I have, through the first 2 episodes, taken to paying close attention to how they portray mental illness on the show. So far, I would give them, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd give them about a 5. Because some of it seems very accurate from my experience and the research that I've done, and some of it also seems very stereotypical. So we have shows that can advance things, but they have to tread lightly. Now, I'm hoping as I move on through the season, we're going to see more accuracy when it comes to discussing these mental illnesses. And in fact, there's a show that on-air producer Bridget had pointed out to me, and I've started to watch it, but it has to do with The Good Doctor. It's a spin-off episode. It's an episodic, whatever it is, where they have the good lawyer, and this lawyer happens to have obsessive-compulsive disorder. I have gotten into that. Seems accurate so far, but I've like not even a third of the way into the episode, so we'll probably talk about that more. But Shrinkage, I recommend it. It is very funny, but we all need to be aware of how mental illness is portrayed in movies and television, because sometimes there are missed opportunities, and sometimes you can put out the wrong type of stigma or build off of a stigma that shouldn't be presented that way, especially when it comes to something that's just, especially if it becomes popular. Shrinkage is a very popular show. Jason Segel is, like I said, very good in it. Harrison Ford is very good in it. It is an entertaining show, but I would like to see them be a little more accurate and less stereotypical. That's what I've noticed. Is you might say, oh yes, that's an accurate depiction because it's based on stereotypes as opposed to actual studies or actual personality traits when it comes to certain mental illnesses and mental health problems. So keep that in mind. Very important. All right. I know. Everybody started listening to this episode and they're just waiting for it. You knew it was going to be in here, and I chose to put it as our positive news for episode 102 of Common Sense Sundays, and that would be the Orange Menace indictment in New York. That's right. We've been hearing about this for a couple weeks. We kind of knew an indictment was coming down. We officially got it the other day. Everyone on social platforms had a blast with it. Happy Indictment Day, blah, 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 blah. We did see today that he finally made his way to New York, will be officially indicted tomorrow in New York. And it's what I love the most about this is, and this is a positive news because I don't care who you are, ex-president of the United States, you need to answer for your crimes. And you know what? If he's innocent, that's fine. Fight it in court. But you're not above the law. What I also love about this whole thing is watching the fake martyrs that are MAGA and Trump supporters, who are also the same people who chanted for years, lock her up, referring to Hillary Clinton. Well, I'm not the biggest Hillary Clinton fan. I mean, she's a billion times better than Trump. I'm not the biggest fan. But you know what? She went in. She got questioned. She did her part when it comes to that. So you can't lock her up for 2 years or 3 years or however long it was, years, and then be upset because Trump might have to answer for some potential crimes here. It's going to be a giant circus. Get the popcorn ready. I've been enjoying tweets from politicians who are just hypocritical beyond belief and think that, and that's my other favorite one too, is people are like, if this can happen to President Trump, it can happen to you too. And it's like, yeah, good point. None of us should break the fucking law. That's what we're here for. So you're saying do crimes? You're going to get in trouble. Yes. That's how it should be in this country. So stop with that. On the not so positive side, we know that Rich, and I'm going to finger quote Rich because do we even think the guy's rich anymore? Rich white dudes with money tend to not actually go to jail, but it will be interesting to see if he's going to at least somewhat answer for any wrongdoing that he's done in this case. And like I said, just have that popcorn ready. All right, let's move on to some parenting. Gotta get some water here. I've actually got water in my mug. I'm a little dehydrated today. It's so windy. We went from rain to which, it was nice for a little while, but it hit a point of like, Jesus Christ, stop the rain. It was just constant for weeks there. Now we've moved on to some dry weather and heavy, heavy winds, which was, in fact, a couple weeks ago, or a week, whatever it was, birthday party for my wife, and I'm setting up the backyard. We have a very nice backyard for entertaining. We always throw parties back there, and I'm out there. It had been raining like the week before, and then I was up in Ventura for Punk in the Park the day before, so I'm out there furiously cleaning, got the leaf blower out and sweeping things up and everything, and then after I finish cleaning, the wind decides to pick up, and suddenly leaves are flying into my yard yet again, and I'm looking around going, why did I even bother? Should have just left it all. Now it looks like crap again anyway. But nonetheless, just get tangented there a little bit. It's been very dry, and I'm not a huge chapstick user unless I'm in super dry conditions, and I've needed chapstick lately, and I've been chugging the water because it just takes it out of you. It's been the sun's been out and the wind whips up, and it's not super hot, but it's not, and for those of you not aware, especially if you just get rain constantly, see here in Los Angeles, we get cloud cover, we get marine layer, and we also get smog. But what happens is, and it's beautiful, when the rain comes through, it clears out the atmosphere, and it's gorgeous. You have these nice clear days, but a lot of people aren't used to it, so suddenly you're standing in the sun, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm sunburned now after just like 20 minutes, because it shifted from rain and cold and snow in Los Angeles, for God's sake, to now just windy and despite not being hot, just very sunny, and there's nothing in the atmosphere that's kind of cutting those sun rays back, All right, now that we went off on that tangent, let's get into the parenting like I mentioned. All right, we had a story of a 5-year-old in Massachusetts. She actually used her mother's phone on a long drive and ended up ordering $3,000 worth of toys, I believe on Amazon. Nonetheless, it had to be through one of those apps. So the mother thought she was playing games while they're on this long drive. She's probably sitting in the back seat in her car seat, holding her mother's phone. And while the mother thinks she's playing games, she is actually ordering thousands of dollars worth of toys off of Amazon or some other site. Here's the thing that's important here. And we go to find out she was able to get a refund on a lot of stuff before it actually shipped. And then I believe was able to return most of it because it was like toy motorcycle. It was just a bunch of crazy stuff. And they asked the girl, well, why'd you order it? She's like, because I wanted it. And it's like, yeah. You put a toy catalog in front of a kid where they just click things and they buy it. That's what's going to happen. So always make sure your kids can't do it. I understand giving your kid a phone. I don't give my kid, we don't give, but I'm not going to sit here and chastise anyone who's giving their kid a phone to keep them busy at a restaurant or on a long car ride, whatever it is. But make sure they can't get into that app and automatically just start clicking stuff. And from a parent standpoint, we live in a day and age where kids they're going to have electronics. I would recommend, doesn't cost you that much. Recommend getting your kid a kid's tablet. Like Amazon has them. I'm sure Apple does. There's probably an Android kids tablet. I know Amazon for sure because that's the one my kid has. She's not able to, so it's all set up for a kid. It just has her stuff on it, and I don't have to worry because she's not able to go to certain like websites and it's kid friendly apps. She has like kid friendly audiobooks on there, all that kind of stuff. So if you're worried about your kid being entertained and don't want to have a $3,000 Amazon bill on your hands, that's what I would recommend. And it's, well, they're so inexpensive these days, you know. It's not like 20 years ago or whenever the first iPad came out and it was like $5,000 and you're like, okay, that's crazy. No. Set you back like $100. And then they're entertained, for God's sake. Or you know what? Give them a coloring book and some crayons, for God's sake. My kid loves it. She's 6. She's got a tablet, but she also takes time to color things and draw things. Huge advantage to that as well. But be careful out there, parents, especially if you're letting your kid run around with a phone. All right, I had a fun event here in Los Angeles, and obviously it's over, but I would recommend anyone in the area checking it out. I believe it is an annual thing. It was called the Maker Faire. And they had it down there at LA Historic Park, which is a large park right near Chinatown here in Los Angeles. It's just right near downtown and right near Chinatown. I don't think it's actually technically Chinatown, but you can literally see the Chinatown metro station from the park. Like, so you're like, there's Chinatown right there. You throw a baseball at Chinatown. So we go out there. Absolute madness. Takes us about 45 minutes to find a parking spot. At which point I'm looking at the Chinatown metro station. I'm going, all right, we should have hopped on the metro, and then we would have walked less distance from where we parked than from the metro station. But you know, hindsight's 20/20. And it was a ton of fun. My 6-year-old had an absolute blast. Just like hundreds of booths though. This is the one criticism I have. It was a little bit overwhelming, even for me. I'm walking around just going, and at one point we go to one side, and I figured that's the edge of the Maker Faire, and I look over, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a whole nother section. This is twice the size, and it was huge to begin with. But then that almost doubled in size when I realized there was a whole other end to this Maker Faire. So highly recommend it when it comes back. It's I think it's better to find a balance for kids and parents. Like I said, that is one criticism I have. Is it was a lot of booths where you're standing in line waiting to spin a wheel, and then you go over and it's, you know, just have, instead of having 50, you know, aquarium booths, maybe let's just have a couple. Because you would have had to, I don't even think, maybe as an adult, without a kid who's stopping every 5 seconds to look at things, you might have been able to get through every booth, but you're not doing that with a kid in the time that this Maker Faire was open. Nonetheless, a lot of fun. My kid enjoyed it. We came home with a lot of extra junk, you know, little swag from booths and stuff, and all of this was revolving around STEM or STEAM. This is science, technology, engineering, and math, and when it's STEAM, that A is arts. They try to throw the arts in there as well, which are fantastic programs. And there's also, that was the thing that was great to learn about, was STEM programs in the area. So check out the Maker Faire if you get a chance next time it comes around there to LA Historic Park. I will say, I've been to LA Historic Park tons of times. We go there. We'll go there just to hang out, take the kids there. They run around the huge, very beautiful park, and it was remodeled a few years ago. The only time before, and I've been there for other events. They have Bob Baker Days there, usually not near as big or crazy. And they used to have DCOM there, which is a local Burning Man event, which that was before it was remodeled. But I'd never seen crowds like I did on Saturday for the Maker Faire. And immediately as I'm walking around, I go, because they have the Pride concert. They have one of the Pride concerts there. And I'm going, holy crap, how are people parking and getting into this place for a huge concert? But apparently it works because they did it there last year. Although if you're going to the Pride concert and haven't been before, based on my experience this weekend, take the damn metro. Even if you don't live near a metro, park at a metro station, take the Gold Line, get off there in Chinatown, and you're going to be right next to the park. All right, I've had a lot of challenges lately with my kid, and I know this is common for somehow we engage the phone. I always try not to do that. That's why I don't use that phrase. I don't use the Apple one or the Google one, but apparently my phone thought I was saying something. But a challenge, and I know this is common because I talk to other parents. You read up on things, and that would be the listening factor for kids. My kid is 6. She is 6 going on 16, and it's been a challenge for a little while here as far as, listening. And I always say to my kid, you know what, if I have to say it twice, I get it. But when I get to 4, 5, 6 times of asking you to do something, that's when I get frustrated. And I've had to catch myself a lot lately because I have found myself getting extremely frustrated. And there has to be a balance. And I'm not here to tell you what that balance is, but just know that you're not alone if your kid's not listening. Because there'll literally be times where I'm like, hey, Are you doing okay? Hey, everything okay in here? Hey, you doing okay? And it's like, literally yes or no answer. There's no wrong answer here. And just, that's what happens. It's a trait with kids that happens. So I'm trying to practice patience as much as I can. And like I said, I don't know the solution, but know that you're not alone. And many of us out there parenting young kids are dealing with this. And I feel for anyone parenting teenagers, I will be there at one point in my life. I don't even want to think about if it just becomes worse as a teenager. At this point, if I got to say something 10 times before I get a response, what am I going to get to 24 times before I get a response? And it's practicing that patience. And there was a couple days ago where I just got extremely upset. And it was after multiple times not listening, and I just had to be like, that's enough. You were not listening. And then she's, I didn't mean to. And it's like, well, if you've been listening, that wouldn't have happened. So solidarity with all you parents out there. All right, one more thing I want to mention in here. I believe I've mentioned them before, but I touched base with them again at Punk in the Park in Ventura last weekend. This is Misfit Mama Clothing Company. And I think, is there a sticker on the wall? I swore I had a sticker on the wall. I got some new stickers, so I'm always behind on the stickers. The sticker wall is constantly growing, but there's some stickers sitting here over to the side. But they make awesome stuff, really geared toward parents, like funny parent stuff, and they're very heavy into the punk rock scene. I, back in November, had picked up a shirt from them that's like Rad Dad, and it says like Punk Rock Papa, and it has a cool skeleton, design. Not a scary one, cool one. And I picked up, last weekend, I picked up an extra birthday present for my wife, and it was like the female Misfit Mama version of the shirt, and it's a skeleton, and it's really cool. Got her the tank top, and she loved it. So big shout out to Misfit Mama. They put out a lot of good stuff out there. Awesome designs for parents. They always hook me up when I go check out their booth. I knew I was going to see them, and I had already gotten the big birthday gift for my wife, but I knew I'd be able to pick up that shirt, and luckily was able to do so, and they threw me some stickers and some other extra stuff as well, which was really nice of them. So follow them on Instagram. I believe it's just at Misfit Mama Clothing, at Misfit. Yeah, but if you go to SoCal Sean, you're going to see them on my list of following and followers, Misfit Mama. Highly recommend them. And if you're out at festivals and stuff, try to catch them. But they do have a website where you can order some great designs, t-shirt designs, sweatshirts, all that kind of good stuff. So again, shout out to Misfit Mama. They are awesome. It's a husband and wife that started it. It's literally a husband and wife that run the booth and run the website and everything else. So give them some of your money, give them some of your time, give them a follow on Instagram, and check out their awesome designs. All right, let's move along to some common sense. I feel like we're flying through this episode somehow, which is really unexpected, because usually when we have a couple weeks off, I'm just kind of slow and plodding along here, but somehow the energy level is quite high today, so that's good, I guess. I don't know. Let's see if we continue burning through this episode 102 of Common Sense Sundays. All right, as I said, let's get into some common sense here. We had a federal judge. Some people in Texas actually brought a lawsuit out against the government there in Texas. I'm not sure the specifics of the lawsuit. That's not the important thing. But we have been talking about banning books in many states, Florida and Texas, seeming to be the biggest culprits. Shocking, I know. Shocking. Biggest culprits of this lately. And what happened from this lawsuit is a federal judge came out and said that all of the books that were pulled from public libraries in Texas, actually those books needed to be returned within 24 hours. And this has to do with the fact that it is potentially a First Amendment, taking away people's First Amendment rights, essentially, by not making these books available because it's based on people's opinion and blah, 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 blah. Now, this doesn't mean bookstores have to carry them, and we're still going to be dealing with that with public schools, but because a library is publicly funded and it is a public institution for people of every walk of life, that federal judge, good on them, pointed out that, hey, you have to make these available. And that's the thing with banned books. If you're worried about your kids reading books that you don't want them to read, go to the fucking library with them. Don't let them check out those books, but you can't take that away from other people. It's not how it works. So now, hopefully, we're going to continue seeing positive movement in that area where politicians are not dictating what kind of books can be read by people. You know? That's not how this works. All right, apparently, this was, I don't want to say all over the news, but it was on the social platforms. And apparently, yesterday, Marjorie Taylor Greene, MTG, had an appearance on 60 Minutes, and everyone lost their mind, and they're like, I'm done with 60 Minutes. How can they have her on before she even went on? My biggest takeaway before I heard anything about her interview was, 60 Minutes is still a thing on television. But apparently, she did an interview with somebody on 60 Minutes, and anyone has the right to interview anybody. I'm not going to sit here and say, and I don't watch 60 Minutes, so I don't give a shit. But apparently, she went quite unchecked. Here's the thing. Now, I am not a journalist per se, but I did go to film school. I worked on documentary films. When it comes to journalism and spreading information, what do we always say here? We fact check. We fact check it, go tell it to the wall. It's common sense to fact check. And if you have somebody that's spewing lies, even if you're interviewing them, you need to call them out on their lies and their hypocrisy. And apparently that was not happening during the 60 Minutes interview. They just let her spew misinformation. And that comes across as accurate because nobody's fact checking it. So always, 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 always make sure if you're hearing something that you fact check it, that you make sure there is a basis for that. When people are writing research papers and everything, you have to provide sources. But we're not even asking this crazy woman about any kind of sources. It's just stuff that she's pulling out of the air, bullshit, misinformation, causing problems, and we can't let that go unchecked. So bad on you, 60 Minutes. Common sense says, you know what, you want to interview her, that's fine, but you need to make sure that she can't just sit there and lie to you for, 60 minutes an hour. Is it an hour-long interview? I don't even know. I feel like I've watched 60 Minutes once or twice, but like back in the 80s and 90s, like I said, I didn't even know it was still around. It's probably on CBS. I really only watch sports on CBS. Oh, come on, Marge. Do better. All right. We had the women's Final Four happening Friday and yesterday. So the 2 games on Friday and 1 game on Sunday. I enjoy watching and I think I've said this before. When it comes to high-level sporting events, where like a championship is on the line, I get sucked into the Olympics. Years ago, I want to say like the 2000, oh my gosh, like 4 Olympics. I found myself at like midnight sitting there watching China versus China in ping pong because it's the Olympics. I don't know anything about ping pong, but it's like that's the Olympics. But I do enjoy women's basketball, especially at the collegiate level, because it's very competitive, it's very entertaining, it's very compelling. But yesterday what happened was, and really going into this morning, but starting last night, there's a player for LSU who won the championship. She's been getting a ton of blowback for a gesture she did, and she did like this waving her hand in front of her face, kind of directed at a player on Iowa who they were beating and it eventually beat to win the national championship. So everyone came out and said, this is unacceptable, this is bad sportsmanship, and blah, 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 blah. Well, here's the thing. The other female basketball player that she did it toward actually previously did the same exact gesture to someone on another team. She did not receive blowback. Does anybody want to guess why, what the difference was? Well, the player for Iowa happens to be a white female, and the player for LSU happens to be a woman of color. This is absolutely a double standard. Shouldn't be happening. There's nothing wrong with a silly little gesture as far as I'm concerned. It wasn't terrible. It's not like she's flipping her the bird or pushing her or any of this kind of stuff. No, she simply did the same gesture she had seen this young woman do in a previous game. That is blatant racism. So if you see anyone calling it out, I saw that Barstool Sports asshole was like, she's a terrible blah, blah, blah. It's like, really? Really? You with your misogynistic bullshit? You're going to be upset that she did a little hand gesture? Give me a fucking break. The other thing that really pisses me off, because like I said, clearly a race issue, is it's taking away from who should be getting blowback. And without getting too sportsy here, the coach of LSU is Kim Mulkey. She has a history of borderline bigotry as well as anti-LGBTQ stuff that she has said. And yesterday in the game, again, I don't want to get too sporty, she was yelling at the referees the entire game. She was standing on the court for most of the game gesturing. She was right next to players of the opposite team on the fucking court. But no, we are talking about a player doing a silly hand gesture after she had one of the biggest moments of her life. Now, maybe she'll win a WNBA champion, biggest sporting moments of her entire life. She won a national championship for her college. She was then named the player of the tournament. We're focusing on that instead of this coach, and everybody's praising her. Oh, she's one of the greatest coaches and blah, blah, blah. Give me a break. She's a horrible human being. She had no class on the court last night, and she's trying to outshine her players. Yes, there is a lot to coaching in sports, but coaching doesn't matter at all without players playing and winning said sport. So let's all do better when it comes to that stuff. Blatant racism here. Oh, and this is the one that's killing me. We knew it was coming because we knew it passed like the Florida State Senate or whatever, and it was heading to the asshole's desk, DeSantis, whatever his fucking name is. And he signed it, and this is a bill allowing permitless open carry in the state of Florida, which means you can walk into a store, you need no permit to get a firearm, and then you can just carry it on your hip all around the state of Florida. Because that seems perfectly safe. Do you see the shit that happens in Florida? This is why there's a saying called Florida Man. So, common sense says we don't do this. But of course, we got a governor down there that doesn't give a shit about anybody and probably would enjoy people just shooting each other in the streets. Here's the other ass-backwards thing about Florida. You can go into a store, buy a gun, no background check, no permit, and carry that thing around. But God forbid, you have a little bit of marijuana in the state of Florida. You are going to fucking jail. And we just saw it last week. The lead singer of Unwritten Law, they are on tour right now. They're on the North American leg of their tour. They were in Florida. And Scott Russo, the lead singer of Unwritten Law, was subsequently arrested, not even for weed possession at the time, possession of marijuana. It was from a possession charge 17 years ago, and he spent multiple nights in jail. So don't bring a little plant into the state, but carry all the fucking guns you want. That's how ass backwards that goddamn state is. Really, not a fan of Florida. Yes, I was born there. I was born in Miami, though. It's a little different. And I got the hell out of there at a very, very young age. Thank God for California. You know what? If you like Florida, hang out there. But let's look at things from a logical standpoint. God. All right. Entertainment news. So when I want to finish up in here and I'm going to get out to, chances are when you're listening to this episode, the game's going to be done unless you start listening to it like right as it gets posted. Because in like a half an hour, the men's national championship for college basketball is going to be occurring. This is something I usually, like I said, I love high-profile sporting events. I will watch championship games. Like I will watch the World Cup. I'm not really a soccer fan. I will watch Sunday of the Masters at the golf event, big golf tournament. It's like, okay, I'll sitting around. It's just something to put on. But this year's a little different. So SDSU is playing UConn for the national championship. And while I did not go to SDSU, for those of you that have lived or live in San Diego, you know that is the San Diego College. Even if you didn't go to SDSU, and I had a bunch of friends that went there. I have friends that work there now. So I've been connected. I got into there when I was a senior in college, just chose to go to a different school. But this is something that's just been building for years, and nobody ever thought SDSU could make it to the Final Four. Nobody thought they could make it to the championship, and here they are in the championship game tonight. And there are places where it's like this, where a town is behind a certain college. Now in Los Angeles, we have multiple colleges. There's a lot of USC fans, there's a lot of UCLA fans. Whereas San Diego, there's not really other colleges that have high-profile sports teams. There are smaller colleges. University of San Diego has like a basketball team. Smaller colleges, but most people, if they've lived in San Diego or they're from San Diego, cheer for San Diego State. Here's the kicker of it, though. San Diego State, as I said, is playing UConn for the national championship. For people that live in UConn, now you could say, I understand. There's Yale is in Connecticut. There are other colleges in Connecticut, but I can speak from experience. My wife, who is from Connecticut, that is kind of also the hometown college. It's not like in Alabama where you can be an Alabama fan or an Auburn fan or, Michigan State or Michigan. It's kind of the one that they rally around from a sports standpoint. I realize Yale has sports. There is other, but that is kind of the hometown college. So it's going to be mine and my wife's hometown teams teeing off in the national championship tonight, and I will be watching. I will be cheering on SDSU, and win or lose, I'm proud to see a team that has worked so hard over the years make it to the championship game. And hopefully they'll continue to build off that, and if they don't win tonight, win a championship over the next few years. That is just like I said, when you're from San Diego, there's a lot of stuff I don't like about San Diego. There's a lot of stuff I love, and SDSU is one of the things I love. Not the football team right now. Don't go back on episodes. I'm not talking about the football team and the bullshit they were pulling a few, less than a year ago, whatever it was. I'm talking about the basketball team. All right, Bad Optics. Have you heard about this one? This is a brand new band that came out. They just released a single this past week. And the reason I'm bringing this one up is it is a new band featuring Tim Armstrong as well as Jesse Michaels. Yes, that Jesse Michaels, who was the other vocalist for Operation Ivy. I think this is the closest we're going to get to an Operation Ivy reunion. And I will say the one song that came out has big Operation Ivy vibes to it. So I'll be looking for looking forward to the full album. But like I said, it's kind of like a pseudo Op Ivy reunion. I think it's as close as we're going to get to something that many of us in the scene have been clamoring for since the 90s, because Operation Ivy broke up in 1989, and then still just had that popularity over the years. I still listen to Operation Ivy. In fact, bands cover their songs. It's a very well-known band. In fact, want to do a little quick show recap. There's a certain band I've talked about on this podcast. Everyone in my house is a big fan of them, and that would be Catbite. They are a band out of Philadelphia. Finally had the pleasure of seeing them live on St. Patty's Day down there at the Observatory in Santa Ana. Happened to be there it's funny because I was talking to somebody. I'm like, man, I've been wanting to catch Catbite for years. And I think it was the merch person, and they're like, oh yeah, no, this is the first time they've played in California. I went, wait, what? Oh, first time ever in California. So it's fantastic seeing them live because I've been a big fan, listening to their music. They put on a fantastic show, and I will say, which always just adds to it, makes it even better, is they are all some of the nicest people. Got to hang out with them after their set, took some pictures, all that kind of great stuff. Told them my 6-year-old is a huge fan of theirs, and that she sometimes is running around singing Amphetamine Delight because that is a song they have. But they are some of the best people that I've met. They also played with some other great bands. This was actually this was the Bad Time Records tour. So Omnigon played. They killed it. Tara from Half Past Two jumped up on stage because she has a track that she's featured on their new album. Kill Lincoln, who they've been around a long time. It had been years since I saw them. They did a fantastic job. And, of course, We Are the Union, who were headlining this tour. We've talked about them many times over the past 2 years or so, however long it's been since I really started getting into We Are the Union. And I will tell you a funny story here is, you always get the encore, and We Are the Union was wrapping up. So I walk out as they're wrapping up, and I'm like, I'm going to hit the bathroom, then I'll meet everyone outside and see who's hanging out. And I'm literally in the bathroom, which is not far from the small room at Observatory. And I hear the start of a song, speaking of Operation Ivy, and it's Sound System. And Reed actually did a cover of Sound System with Max Collins of Eve 6, oh my gosh, like 2 years ago. And this, it's a common song that bands will cover. So suddenly I'm like, oh my God, I got to finish peeing now. Come running out of the restroom, running back into the room, and I'm at the back, and I look up, and I'm kind of in my head, I'm like, this is usually 2 singers for Sound System. I look up, and there's Ray, the amazing Mystic Ray, who just does incredible photography. I look up to them very much so when it comes to concert photography, and I'm going, oh my gosh, if Ray's up there, who's taking their picture? Because Ray would be the one shooting pictures. So I make my way to the front and I shoot some pictures, and I'm so glad I did that because I actually posted a few, and Ray messaged me and said, oh my gosh, thank you so much. I didn't have any pictures of Reed, and Reed and Ray are partners as well, so obviously they know each other well. And Ray was shooting a documentary for Bad Time Records. So they were obviously running around with a camera for most of it, but then when they came out to sing the song, there was nobody there to take pictures of Ray. So I was really happy I could do that, and glad I ran back in there. Fortunately, didn't have an accident where I'm just running like, no, I'm not done. No, I had to finish up and then run back into the Constellation Room there. And then, not going to get into a huge recap, but I did shoot the Venomous Pinks at South Bay Customs, so we're going to have a whole new set from Venomous Pinks. We had a set recently that came out from a December show. This one will be a much quicker turnaround, and we'll get those Venomous Pinks photos up. So make sure you're following at SoCalSean there on Instagram. All right, we got a couple more things, then we're going to wrap up episode 102 of Common Sense Sundays. But this is what I mentioned at the top of the episode, something at least 2 years in the making. This album had been done for like a year, and we knew it was coming out as of like 2 years ago. And just finally, this past Friday, the Barstool Preachers' new album, Above the Static, was officially released. I am still waiting on my vinyl. Come on, Pure Noise, I'm watching it. It's somewhere in Nevada right now, but send me my vinyl. Fortunately, my sis Laura got her vinyl like Wednesday, brought it over. We had a whole listening party, and I highly recommend if you're getting the vinyl, take the time, check out the awesome artwork by the uber-talented Paul Smith of Zombie Teeth Clothing, and also Zombie Teeth music videos. He did a fantastic job with all the artwork on there. The vinyl itself is just beautiful. There's a bunch of different variations out there, and if you're not picking up the vinyl, it's available on Spotify, it's available on iTunes, and all that good stuff. It is fantastic from start to finish. And something that I think, and bands are getting better about these days, but back in the 90s, like late 90s, it got lost. And that is making an album that has the progression that you want to listen from start to finish as opposed to hand-picked songs. And Above the Static is a perfect example of that. It takes you through a musical progression, the different styles that we've heard from the Barstool Preachers over their previous 2 albums and their EP. It has old school Barstool Preachers feels. It has new school, new sound feels to it. It is a fantastic musical journey. In fact, there was one point where I want to say it was Lighthouse or something, and I turned to Laura and my wife, we're sitting there listening, and I go, I figured they would end with this. And then it gets to the last song, and I can't remember the title of the last song, but I went, oh, no, that was the song to end the album with. So just fantastic from start to finish. Can't say enough good things about it. Like I said, perfect blend of styles. So far, now I've got more listens to it, and I'm still picking up on things. It's another thing I'll mention in a moment. So far, my 2 favorite songs, I think, are Don't Die Today and Laptop. But of course, Lighthouse is just a beautiful, emotional song, and Paul Smith did a great job with the music video for that. TJ did a fantastic job with his singing and being in the music video. So of course that one is just on another level as well. What I will say, and this was like my 3rd listen that I realized it, and I think it was my first listen, the track Flatlined. There's a point where TJ kind of goes into like it's not a rap, but it's like a monologue. And I was listening, and I was like, this sounds very Mike Skinner of the Streets. I've been a fan of the Streets for a very long time. Well, as my 2nd or 3rd listen, I'm listening, and I realize there's a lyric in there where TJ says, it's like I'm 12 again and listening to the Streets. And I went, it's like that Leonardo DiCaprio meme where he's got the beard. It's like, and I realized he's actually talking about the Streets. And then I realized, like, no, that's totally about the same time, because I happen to be about 10 years older than TJ, and I found the Streets when I was like 21 or 22, introducing them by my friend Rob Mercado when we were in film school, and just it hit me. I went, oh my gosh, this is because they're not similar. The Streets is electronic music with kind of rap, hip hop monologue over it. It's beautiful music, but it's very different from punk and ska. But it was just funny to realize that small connection, even though they're not the same type of music, and that being possibly a reason why I enjoy Barstool Preachers as much as I do, is because they, at least TJ, was influenced by Mike Skinner in the Streets, which was just a really cool thing to experience and realize. And I will say, I am unbelievably excited. It's been years because of COVID and everything else. I finally get to see them in May in Vegas, which is that is going to be a full circle of everything, because literally I was going to see them 3 or 4 times over the course of like 8 days, but all of that was April of 2020. And we all know what happened in March of 2020. So, of course, all those shows got canceled. So I'm really looking forward to seeing the boys and watching them perform, and hopefully see some of these new songs. I might have to bug TJ and be like, yo, you better be playing Don't Die Today. That is because that's the thing too, is I love Lighthouse. It's but there's songs you don't need to see live. Don't Die Today is like that's a banger. That is a party banger. We got to get this one live. Please, please, please don't die today live in Vegas. So really looking forward to that Vegas club show. All right, one more thing before we wrap up episode 102. The new Basis Against Racist design, and I think maybe that's why it was meant to be that we were delayed a day, because it was just unveiled today. The new April design for Basis Against Racists. It is Melanie Radford of Built to Spill. Again, Melanie Radford of Built to Spill. That pre-order just opened up today. This is, of course, the brainchild of the amazingly talented Lynn Lee. All of the artwork and design done by Paul Smith of Zombie Teeth Clothing. Fantastic design on this one. I really like. There hasn't been a design I disliked, but this is one of the, if you're ranking them, this is one of in the top tier of my favorite designs that they've put together. And if you want to pre-order that in North America, you're going to do that through Chaos Merch. And if you want to pre-order that in Europe, you're going to do it through T-Mom Merch. Again, one more time, Melanie Radford of Built to Spill, the Basis Against Racists April design that just dropped today. So you got a few weeks. Make sure you get that pre-order in so you do not miss out on the newest Basis Against Racist design. All right. On that note, that's going to do it for episode 102 of Common Sense Sundays. Before we go, don't forget to follow us on the social platforms, facebook.com/GoTellItToTheWall, our YouTube channel, youtube.com/GoTellItToTheWall, my own personal Instagram account, which is tons of photo content that's going up through there and more coming. I got a bunch in the hopper that I'm working on, at SoCalSean, SoCalSean. And don't forget to bookmark SeanO'RourkeLive.com, where you're going to find exclusive content not posted to some of those social platforms, as well as our Patreon campaign and our merch website. So make sure you check that out as well. All right, like I said, on that note, this has been episode 102 of Common Sense Sundays with Go Tell It to the Wall, hosted by me, your absolute favorite podcast host, the one and only Sean O'Rourke. Despite it being Easter, we should be back next week, same wall place, same wall time, that one actually being on Sunday. And until then, wall fans, common sensors, podcast consumers, remember, no matter what you do, no matter who you're with, no matter where you go, and especially no matter why you are doing it, always use common sense.